So next up, we're going to add our register form. So let's go back to VS Code and I'll just remove the error message because what I'm going to do for the register form is a little bit lazy, but I'm just going to copy all of the login form, and then inside our user folder I'm just going to create a new file and call it registerform.tsx. And then I'm just going to paste in the entire login form just as it is and just make some changes to it, because a lot of what we're going to do here is incredibly similar. So instead of being called login form, it's going to be called register form. And we'll need a register method inside our user store. And this is going to be changed to register as well. And down at the bottom here, instead of exporting the login form, it will be the register form. So inside our user store, we're going to need a register method. So let's open up the user store. And inside here, let's create a new action and call it register. And it's going to be an async method that's going to take in the values, which will be of type iUser form values. And we'll add our try and catch and pass in the error. And inside the try block, we'll say const user equals await agent.user.register, and then we can just pass in the values. And then we'll say list.rootStore, and we'll set our token, because with our register method we are actually returning the user object as soon as the user's registration is completed. So we will actually have a token available at this stage as well. So what we'll do is we'll say common store and set token, and we'll say user.token. And we also want to close our modal, so we'll say list.rootStore.modalStore.closeModal, and we also need to do this for our login method as well. So let's just, while it's fresh in the memory, let's just add this function to the login method as well, and say modalStore.closeModal when a user logs in successfully. And then what we'll do is just say history.push, and we'll send them to the activities page. And in the case of an error, let's just do the same as the login and throw the error, because we will need access to lists inside our form. So let's go back to our register form, and we've got our register method there now. And same deal with the register form. If we get a submission error, then that's going to set our submission errors inside our form. And because I was a little bit lazy and copied this all across, we've got access to all of these properties already, which is great. But I do need a couple of extra fields. We also need a field for the display name and the username. So I'm just going to copy the email field down a couple of times, and the first field will specify as the username and give it a placeholder of username, and the second will be the display name and give it a placeholder of display name. And let's also add the validation for this as well. Let's copy this down a couple of times and change the first two and specify username is required, and say username, and I'll say display name is required and display name. And that should be good for the time being, although our error message is going to need some care, because with our registration we've got many more opportunities to send up bad data. And in fact, just so that we can see the effects of this, I'm just going to comment out the validate method for now, so that we can see what we get back from our server in this case. We do want client-side validation, of course, but there are certain things that we want to see coming back from the server. And if we get all of our validation errors back from the server, it makes it easier to demonstrate what we're doing inside our error message. So I'm just going to remove the text for now. And what we also want to do is go to our home page, and we just want to open our modal for our register form. So I'm just going to remove the link and add an on-click event. And what we want to do is say open modal, and we want to pass in our register form. And once again, I'm going to be manually importing this by the looks of things, because this, is not going to come in. So I'll just import the register form from, and go up to our user and register form, and make sure this is okay, and that looks fine. And let's just go back and make sure I've not missed anything, and in the button this should say register, and let's just make sure the header and change this to sign up to reactivities. And let's go take a look. And if I click on the register button, then we've got our form. And all I want to do at this stage, and I'll also need to change the button so that we can actually click on it when we've got bad or invalid data. And it's this pristine that's catching us out here, because in fact that should be fine. Let me just start typing and then I can click the button, so that's fine. And I'm just going to open up the console at the same time so that we can see what we get back from the server. And if I click register, then I get the bad request. And if I click on the request and the network request, then what we can see in the response, in the preview, then we get all of our different errors coming back, and the display name and the email and the password. And what we could do is, let's go back to the error message, and I'll just add the text back in actually. And just for the time being, I'll just say json.stringify and then submit error.data.errors, because this is where our errors are getting surfaced inside our response from Axios. And if I just go back and I'll just remove the Chrome developer tools and I'll just start typing and click register, then we can see that we're getting all of our properties back from our error message, which is great, but it looks pretty terrible. So what we'll do next is see how we can improve our error message so that we can deal with the types of errors that we're returning, including our validation errors, and display them inside this message a bit better. And we'll take a look at that next.